Hey, what do you say? Hello, everybody. Great to see you today. Tuesday, February 25. This is the Bill Press Show. Here we go for the next, all 3 hours this morning. We will be talking about the issues of the day, telling you what's going on here in our nation's capital. That's where you find us, right here on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building. We'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, and most importantly, on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV, our video stream, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. We will take your calls at 866-55-PRESS or your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Another veteran member of Congress here in Washington has decided to call it quits. And we're talking about Michigan's John Dingell, who is stepping down after serving 59 years in Congress. That is the longest serving member of Congress ever in history. John Dingell says at 87 he is still up to the job, but you can't get anything done in Congress anymore. Congress is broken, so he says it's not worth hanging around for. In other news, the president of Uganda has signed a bill establishing harsh penalties for homosexuality, making it a crime against the state. And there are many critics here in the United States now calling on President Obama to cancel the $400 million in aid that we send to Uganda each year as a form of protest. And the president of the Ukraine, Yanukovych, continues to play hide and seek. Nobody knows where he is, but opponents want him brought to trial and charged with mass murder. And Alec Baldwin has burned all of his bridges. He says he's leaving public life after trashing everybody he ever worked with. Here we go. Lots right here this morning on the Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today,
I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Did you commit to change the world?
Fired up and ready to go, as they say. Tuesday morning, February 25. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you this morning, and we welcome you to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., the most powerful city on the planet, our nation's capital. The governors have been in town, the House and the Senate back in town, the president in town. You know, it doesn't mean they're getting anything done, but boy, it's suddenly streets are crowded again. Restaurants are crowded again in Washington, D.C., and we're on top of it all. We'll tell you what's going on, not only here, but in the Ukraine, in Uganda, in Syria, and Venezuela and other hotspots around the globe. We'll bring you the latest from Washington, D.C., from around the country, around the planet, and most importantly, take your calls on what it all means and how you see it. 866-55-PRESS. That is our toll-free number. That's your ticket to join the conversation at any time. Or if it's easier for you and you prefer and you're living in the 21st century, not the 20th century, you can just send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Ooh, what do you say? Join me in saying good morning to the team here this morning. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
Here we go again, huh? Ready? Ready to go?
Yes, indeed. Always ready, sir.
Yeah, Alicia Cruz, they're standing by to take your phone calls, get you on the air, and Cyprian Bolding has already uncovered the cameras, turned the lights on, turned the cameras on, and here we are looking at you on Free Speech TV and looking at you on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And, of course, most importantly, coming to you live as your morning liberal radio show on your on your full-time progressive talk station, wherever you happen to be in this country, if you're lucky enough to have one. So last night, how about it? Yesterday was a big media day.
Yeah, right?
Ronan Farrow started his show. Anybody see anything? I didn't. Sorry, I'm usually not watching TV in the middle of the afternoon.
I missed it yesterday.
Oh, is that right?
I
didn't seem to make a...
I will watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious.
Didn't seem to make a big splash.
Not really.
No. But last night, Seth Meyers started his new show. He did make a big splash. He had the Vice President of the United States sitting right alongside of him, and Vice President Joe Biden making a major announcement on 2016.
Well, you know, I was planning on making a major announcement tonight, and but I decided tonight's your night.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I hope you'll invite me back.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Seth Meyers is going to be great there. And he had
so
Amy
too.
Poehler with him, and she's a guest. I mean, she's not going to be like a co-host.
No. She was just a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll have her own show someday.
I wouldn't. She should.
Absolutely.
She should. I mean, she's on Parks and Recreation, which is a big show, but I mean, she could absolutely host a late night show.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great if Tina Fey and Amy Poehler came back together and did a late night together. I think that would be good.
Bad idea.
The two of them working together, they are really, really great. Yes, indeed. Lots going on today. We've got some great guests coming in studio, some of our very favorites on a Tuesday. We welcome again Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post, Igor Volsky from Think Progress. Bob Cusack from The Hill will be here as a friend of Bill. We'll be joined by Danny Canner from the Democratic Governors Association, and Dylan Byers from Politico, chief media reporter for Politico, to talk about Alec Baldwin and Piers Morgan and Seth Meyers and all the other media stories going on today. Lots going on there. And big news out of the Pentagon. We'll tell you all about it. Something we've been waiting for a long time. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other
what's going on?
stories making news. While you were sleeping, Bill, a meteorite smashed into the moon in what is being called the largest lunar impact ever recorded.
Into the moon?
Into the moon. A meteorite traveling at 40,000 miles per hour hit the moon so hard that you could actually see it. It was recorded by Spanish telescopes. You could see what looks like a little miniature explosion on the moon as it hits. It's not uncommon for meteorites to hit the moon because it doesn't have the same atmosphere that we have to protect from such incidents. But this is, again, the biggest one that they've ever seen.
Were any fatalities? Well, that's one way to find out, right?
That's a good question. Let me look into that for you.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Let me look into that. Yesterday, Taco Bell made it
Maybe
official.
that was Yakunovich's escape plane.
That's right. His escape pod just crashed into the moon. Yesterday, Taco Bell made it official. We had talked about this a couple months ago about how Taco Bell was testing new breakfast items. Yesterday, they rolled out their new breakfast menu. It's going to be available late next month. Some of the items on the menu: the AM Crunch Wrap, which is scrambled eggs, hash brown, cheese, bacon, sausage, or steak in a flour tortilla. Bacon and egg burrito.
Heart attack.
Sausage flatbread melt, and the one that everybody seems to be talking about is the waffle taco. It is a waffle wrapped around a sausage patty or bacon with scrambled eggs and cheese, served with syrup on the side.
Gross.
If you go with the sausage patty waffle taco, that will run you 46 grams of fat.
Obscene. Yeah,
It's a taco.
But with
it's
a
not
waffle?
a taco shell. It's a waffle.
Why?
My theory is no one that is going to eat this is actually going to be starting their day with this food. It's going to be people who are still up from the night before who are crashing and getting their waffle.
Who are hungover.
Waffle tacos.
It's hard to say too, isn't it?
Waffle tacos should not appeal to sober people. No.
No. Let me just say, I hope they make a lot of money. They're not going to get any of my money.
Exactly. And sad news out of Hollywood yesterday. Harold Ramis died at the age of 69. When you look at the movies that he's either written, starred in, or directed, it is an impressive list. Animal House, Meatballs, Ghostbusters, Caddyshack, Stripes, National Lampoon's Vacation,
and
Groundhog Day. All
Yeah.
some of the funniest movies ever made. Again, he died from a rare autoimmune disease. He was 69 years old.
And not a big headliner in Hollywood.
No.
But he's not a guy you heard a lot about, or saw honored and all that kind of stuff. But boy, legendary,
completely legendary. And Groundhog Day is genuinely one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah,
seriously, it's funny, it's deep, it's well directed, it's well acted. I know it's easy to throw it aside because it's a comedy with Bill Murray. It is such a perfect movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Directed by Harold Ramis.
Harold Ramis. All right, Peter, thanks for starting us off here. Yeah, ever since I've been involved in politics, and certainly as a liberal, ever since I've been involved in politics, I have heard and we've talked about the peace dividend, right? We've talked about cutting the defense budget, and it's sort of one of the pillars of liberalism, if you will, that with all this money, with World War II over and the Cold War over, we should not be spending as much money on the Pentagon. The Pentagon budget, which is over $600 billion, the Pentagon eats up too much money, and we cut everything else, and we're willing to cut, it seems, everything else, but we can't touch the Pentagon because it's this sacred cow. And liberals have been saying forever No, you gotta have some appropriate cuts in the Pentagon budget as well. We just cannot continue on that same World War II or Cold War footing. Well, we said that was argued after World War II. Then comes the Cold War, but after the Cold War, then there was another push for, all right, now's the time to cut the Pentagon budget. Where's the peace dividend? Bring that back here. Invest that money in this country. You've heard all these arguments. Well, then comes September 11, and nothing happened before. Once September 11 happened, then the chances of cutting a Pentagon budget disappeared again, because then we have, after that, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq. They've been dragging on for 13 years. Yesterday, and I'm amazed this is not the top story on the front pages of the papers today. I don't think it's getting as much attention as it should or will. But yesterday, Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel came out and said, of course, with the blessing of President Obama, and said, okay, now is the time. We are going to reduce the size of the military to fit these new times. And what they're talking about is really, really dramatic. It would cut the Pentagon overall military by 1/8. Reducing the size of the military from 520,000 active members of the military down to 450,000, which is the lowest size of the military, get this, since 1940. 74 years. Takes us back to the size that the military was before World War II. And Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel said, we are not letting down our guard here. What he's saying is we are simply reacting to the new realities of how we conduct wars.
This is a time for reality. This is a budget that recognizes the reality of the magnitude of our fiscal challenges.
And the Secretary said, of course, that after, with Iraq and Afghanistan over, there's just no justification for keeping the Pentagon at the level that it has been.
As we end our combat mission in Afghanistan, this will be the first budget to fully reflect the transition DOD is making for after 13 years of war.
That is a very important concept. You're going to hear this transition from 2 long wars to a different kind of military, and where the Secretary says again, what we're doing here is, the key word is adapting to the new realities of keeping this country safe.
These recommendations will adapt and reshape our defense enterprise so that we can continue to protecting this nation's security in an era of unprecedented uncertainty and change.
I just think this is huge, hugely important, and absolutely the right thing to do. But to give you some idea about what that's going to mean, it's going to mean, of course, closing a lot of bases, which, of course, is going to be a political buzzsaw in the Congress, because everybody, that's part of the problem here. Everybody has been for, not everybody, but a lot of people, for cutting the Pentagon budget until it happens to be a base in your congressional district or in your home state. And then even Democrats will stand by and say, no. Yeah, we're all for cutting the Pentagon budget, but no, not this one base in Connecticut, or not what this important base in Georgia. Or, yeah, we know we got to get rid of a lot. We have too many fighter planes. We have redundancy in fighter planes and submarines or warships or whatever. You got to get rid of it. Oh, no, but you can't close this factory in my state, right? Or that is a problem. But here's what's on the chopping block right now. The Pentagon cuts would eliminate the Air Force's A-10 Warthog attack jets. It would retire the Air Force's entire fleet of U-2 manned spy planes and replace them with unmanned Global Hawk aircraft. Again, new technology.
We got drones now.
You have drones now, right? Yeah, exactly. Things. The budget cuts the number of Navy combat ships from 52 to 32. Yeah, that's a lot of money in building those ships, in maintaining those ships, in the crews that are on those ships. And the main thing is, and we've used the word a couple of times, is the new technology. Drones is the prime example of the, and so what, and this, the other thing that's gone is this concept, which we've had for a long time, that we have to be able to fight 2 major land wars on the planet at the same time, which I always thought was crazy. I mean, I think the days of a major land war, ground forces on the ground, such as we saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, I think those days have come and gone. I think it's all going to be either from the air, or with our fighter jets and bombers, or it's going to be or with missiles coming from ships offshore, or it's going to be drone attacks. That's sort of the new warfare. So I don't know whether this is going to get through Congress, but I think it is really, really big news. Good for us, good for the country. What do you say? 866-55-PRESS. Has the peace dividend that we've been talking about for a long time finally arrived?
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It's 26 minutes after the hour now, talking about the big news yesterday out of the Pentagon. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel obviously worked this all out with President Obama, saying this is the time for cuts in the military. Remember, even with the sequester, everybody say, no, you can't touch the Pentagon. You can't touch. What the hell? Why can't we touch the Pentagon? Of course, there's a lot. We've always said there's a lot of fat in the Pentagon. And now, particularly with the end of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, it is time to reduce the spending there and to reflect the new times and the new technology and the new kinds of warfare and move to what they call a more nimble and a more agile system of defense where we can still protect this country without necessarily boots on the ground everywhere or thinking that we have to be able to fight two major land wars on the planet at the same time. George, it's going to be tough getting this through Congress, but I think this proposal is really, really important and a very good one. George is out in Chicago. Hello, George. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Press. How you doing?
Bill, it's Bill. Thank you. Yeah, what do you say?
I'm much in favor of reducing military spending and the Pentagon cuts. But I do have a concern regarding some of what I heard, and that is in regards to reducing some of the benefits for the guys that will be left in the military. Because one of the things that I heard is they were talking about taking away the tax exemption status for their housing, as well as reducing pay increases for those that are in the military.
Yeah, I saw that, George. I mean, to me, that doesn't make any sense at all, right? I mean, I think you save your money by cutting the number of troops, but you don't take it out on the people who are still there serving our country.
Right. I mean, that's where the big dollars are not with the guys that are out there fighting the wars. It's with, like I say, all the money that we're spending on planes and military bases as well as fighting wars in other countries. Yeah, absolutely. And I hope that is reflected in the debate in Congress. I'd say two things. Number one, the people that are there, I mean, we are hardly guilty of paying our military too much or giving them too many benefits, certainly not even enough. A lot of the military are on food stamps, their families. And the other thing is, so the men and women who are serving and those who are no longer serving, it's important that they continue to get all the veterans benefits that they have fought for and deserve as well. No, make the cuts in the hardware, not in military salaries.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
You bet it is. It's Tuesday morning, February 25, 33 minutes after the hour, and we are coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., out there across the land on your local progressive talk radio station, and brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America. The good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Harry O'Sullivan, building a better America, you bet. And that's their website, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, LIUNAbuildsamerica.org. Tuesday morning, this time of the hour, this time of the morning, look who it is. You got to expect him, and he's here, delivering as always, Arthur Delaney, Chief Economics Reporter and soon-to-be President, CEO of Huffington Post. Good morning, Arthur. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you for the promotion.
Does Ariana know you're taking over? No.
If she's listening, she does.
Morning. Morning, boss.
Yeah. Everything good?
Everything's fantastic.
Walked the dog already this morning?
I did, and it's cold again. My dog loves that.
The polar vortex is coming back.
Yeah, and we're ready.
Yeah, you're ready for it. So, big news last week after we talked last Tuesday. President Obama put out a budget, and it does not contain the so-called chained CPI, which is, again, your beat is the middle-class Americans. You're there fighting for them, reporting on what's going on. Is this good for the middle class?
Yes, it's good for anyone who receives Social Security. That's more than 50 million people. So this affects a tremendous number of Americans. The budget's not out yet. The White House, though, is telegraphing that they will leave this cut to Social Security out of it.
What is chained CPI?
Chained CPI is a cut to Social Security benefits, but it's sort of a wonky cut, and that's why technocrats like it, because it's obscure and hard to understand.
It represents a different way of calculating benefits, correct?
It makes cost of living adjustments smaller. And it's only a little smaller at first, but if you live for a long time after you start receiving Social Security benefits in retirement, it amounts to several $1,000s over the course of your retirement. And it assumes that inflation affects people less than the current COLA system, because people, if the price of something goes up, they'll substitute that purchase.
Well, why did they do it in the first place? Or why did anybody propose it in the first place?
It's a more complicated method of calculating inflation. Right now they use the Consumer Price Index for wage earners, clerical workers, and they measure how much different goods cost, and they call it a basket of goods. And it actually takes a couple of years to figure out what would the chained CPI version be, because they go back and look at data and revise it. And again, it's this substitution effect. If beef goes up, they say, people will switch to pork. So that's the substitution. And people like Barney Frank have always mocked that, like senior citizens looking for deals at the supermarket will leave the store and drive 20 miles to the next one to substitute these things that they need in order to eat and survive. But anyway, President Obama has loved chain CPI for years. He's trying to get it in a grand bargain with John Boehner. Republicans love it. He's trying to. He put it in his budget last year, and of course, this isn't something that automatically becomes law, but it's just a statement of administration priorities. Now they're saying
he drove liberals crazy by putting in chain CPI.
Bernie Sanders, Tom Harkin, the assorted labor and Social Security advocacy groups have been raising hell about this. They really hate it. And I remember how they would have events like every month. Nobody was even talking about it. And I asked Bernie Sanders, why are you doing this? I mean, it's not part of the conversation right now. And he would say, they're working on it as we speak. And he was right. They were. They always were. And now it turns out they're done with it.
That's a very good question, Arthur.
Yeah, that's basically what he sounds like.
But so why did the president drop it? If he was, he's been for it all this time. Why did he suddenly drop it?
You remember he said he wanted to break the fever in Congress.
He did. But
he's done trying to get a deal with Republicans because they would not accept his proposals and then attack him from the left anyway for anything he tries to do on entitlements. For instance, right now they're attacking him on Medicare Advantage. He's going to hurt seniors by cutting Medicare. Yeah. Really? The party that is supposedly serious on entitlement reform will attack from any direction on entitlement reform. So now Obama is doing his minimum wage, I'm going to help workers thing. And this is part of that. He is no longer preemptively compromising. Instead, he's just saying what he supposedly actually wants.
Secretary of Treasury Jack Lew told Susan Page from USA Today last week that we put chain CPI in there thinking we could get some Republicans. It's sort of a way of playing nice to Republicans. Okay, we'll give them this, and then they got nothing in return.
I think they tried it and it didn't work. So
and then they said, why give it to these guys if we're not going to get anything back for it? Right?
The thing is that at the time,
so they've dropped it, right? It's out.
No, well, this is where it gets a little hairy. They dropped it. They've taken it out of their budget. They say it's not really a policy they favor. Right. However, Josh Earnest said, well, it remains on the table. So the administration is a little bit having it both ways on chain CPI. They are not out there promoting it, but if you ask them, they'll say, oh, well, you know, it's not so bad. Huh. We're willing to cut a deal still if we could.
I hate that, trying to have it both ways and trying to but that's so classic in so many ways.
Yeah.
For sometimes even for this administration. Now, one other issue we've talked a lot about is the minimum wage. It came up yesterday. President Obama, speaking to the governors, congratulated several of them because he said, since I called, in fact, we have President Obama. Let's just listen to him. Were the states on the minimum wage? Elisa, that second clip from the governors yesterday.
Since I called on Congress to raise the minimum wage last year, 6 states have gone ahead and done it on their own.
So as we saw, several states have done it, and the president was encouraging other governors there to raise the minimum wage, which led Bobby Jindal, he was the spokesperson for the Republican governors because Chris Christie did not go to the meeting with the governor because the governors, I think, didn't want Chris Christie to be their spokesperson because all the questions would be about Bridgegate.
Well, Bobby Jindal's a big cheese in his own right, isn't he?
No, he's not.
No.
He's a little cheese. If you see the governor standing
petit
up,
fromage.
He really is. He is a petit fromage, right? So Bobby Jindal picked up on this. The president asks them to consider raising the minimum wage in their states, and this is what he gets from Bobby Jindal.
This president of the White House seems to be waving the white flag of surrender after more than 5 years now under this administration. The Obama economy is now the minimum wage economy. I think we can do better than that. I think America can do better than that.
Yeah, I mean, I just how brazen these guys are amazes me. Here we are with the Dow up above 16,000, corporate profits the highest ever, right? You know, Wall Street making more money than ever before. And some people are not benefiting, so the president's saying, let's try to help these people at the very bottom, and Bobby Jindal calls it a minimum wage economy.
This is Bobby Jindal speaking at the White House with all the governors.
Yes.
As if it were totally spontaneous and inspired by what Obama had previously said yesterday. I don't think so. It's such like a staged, calculated effort to pander to primary voters. The minimum wage is so popular.
That's the other thing.
That there is only one real constituency Bobby Jindal's talking to there, and you've got to imagine it's base Republican voters, and he's looking toward political ambitions.
But even a small part of the base of Republican voters, right? I mean, if 75% of the American people say that they're all for raising the minimum wage, there are a lot of Republicans among that 75.
He gets a majority of Republicans too.
Yeah,
I think he's a narrower set of Republicans who would really be interested in hearing about how the minimum wage doesn't help people.
Who's he playing to? What I was really glad is that Dan Malloy, speaking for Democratic governors, was standing right alongside him, Governor Dan Malloy from Connecticut. And he didn't even, in front of the reporters yesterday, before I got down to the White House, Dan Malloy didn't hesitate to take on Bobby Jindal right in front of the other governors and right in front of the media. Here's Governor Malloy.
We have a plan to get to $10.10. I don't know what the heck was a reference to white flag when it comes to people making $404 a week. I mean, that's the most insane statement I've ever heard.
That sounded a little more spontaneous.
It definitely was. You could see he was. I saw the video. He was standing there just fuming while Jindal was speaking.
Minimum wage economy is a pretty good Republican soundbite, though. If they do want to somehow transform that debate in their favor, it's got that Frank Luntz sheen. Minimum wage economy,
but it's a lie. Dave is calling from Canton, Michigan. Hello, Dave.
Yes. I'm calling about the minimum wage and how pathetically low it is.
Yes.
Yes. My proposal is that this one that's being proposed by the president is very anemic, and you need to have a real minimum wage that really supports people.
What should it be?
Okay, well, we need to have a 3-month program where we bring the minimum wage to $10 an hour. And then a year after that, we need to raise it to $11 an hour. Then a year after that, we need to raise it to $12 an hour. That will be a beginning.
All right.
You're going for a living wage. That's what they call that.
I was going to say, yeah.
Well, you know what? A minimum wage shouldn't recognize people for doing nothing, which is what it does. That's what a minimum wage does. It recognizes people for basically doing nothing.
Right.
And that because that's what they get paid. They get paid nothing. They can't live on it. Their families have to support them. The minimum wage is so low that it does nothing but prevent people from getting out of the economic poverty they're in.
Out of poverty. All right, Dave. Appreciate it. A lot of people have said, you're right. You use the phrase living wage. If you get the living wage would be about $15 an hour, right?
Even higher than 12, yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't think Dave went high enough, as far as I'm concerned.
But he went high faster because the Obama proposal is to go in incremental steps over a series of years, eventually arriving at $10.10 an hour. And that's the way it was done under George W. Bush.
Right. And remember, President Obama only originally called for raising it to $9 an hour. And it was Tom Harkin and others in the Senate who said, wait a minute, that's crazy. It's got to be at least above 10. Yeah.
But Dave was getting at something more fundamental, I think, which is the indignity of working for a wage you can't live on. And that's a debate that is only beginning to happen with Republicans talking about the dignity of work, no matter what.
Right. We talk about the dignity of work, but they're not treating workers with dignity. Arthur Delaney is here from Huffington Post. We're talking minimum wage. We're going to talk unemployment insurance, change CPI, all of those good economic issues impacting the middle class. And again, your calls, like Dave, welcome at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
For more than 18 months, the members of AFSCME 3299 have been working to secure a new contract with the University of California. With workplace injuries at UC skyrocketing and government fines related to safety deficiencies at UC hospitals skyrocketing, Local 3299's top priority has been safe staffing at the workplace.
We've been short of people for the last 5 years.
They're stretching us thin, which the students are suffering, the faculty suffering, and the patients are suffering.
While UC administrators have granted these standards to other UC workers, they have refused to make similar accommodations for AFSCME represented workers who perform the most physically demanding labor at UC.
It takes a whole team to take care of the patient. It's not just the RN and it's not just the doctor. The nurses were able to win a great contract, and AFSCME workers, the patient care workers and service workers, they're part of the team and they deserve that same fair contract too.
We take pride into working for the university, and we feel like the university doesn't value the work that we do.
But the second-class treatment of AFSCME workers doesn't end at safety and staffing. On wages, benefits, and other issues, UC refuses to offer AFSCME 3299 members the same respect they afford their other workers.
I have 3 jobs because what the university pays me is just not enough to make a living for my family and myself.
99% of service workers in the UC system make so little money that they're eligible for at least some form of public assistance. At the same time, the number of executives in the UC system that have crossed over into making at least $250,000 a year has more than doubled since 2008.
The University of California has long been a beacon of hope and progress for those struggling for dignity and fairness. With such a proud history, it is disturbing to see the leadership of the university treat its lowest paid workers like second-class citizens.
All workers at the university deserve equal treatment.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Protection available today. This Tuesday morning, February 25, Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post, HuffingtonPost.com, in studio with us, a champion of the middle class.
HuffingtonPost.com, Arthur Delaney.
There you are. You got it. Hey, let's say hello to John. Arthur, out in you're not getting the calls this morning. John is in Minneapolis. Hello, John.
Yeah, good morning. I just wanted to say that unless a job is for somebody who is like a teenager, I think the minimum should be a livable wage, which would be about $15.40 from what I hear. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that would actually be good for the economy. It would make that, you know, the stock market go from 1,600 probably up to 2,000. You know, it's or 16,000 to 20,000. I mean, it's just, you know, ridiculous that we are offering what is essentially, you know, an indentured servitude for adults. You know, these people are working, you know, for jobs that they're not even getting paid to be able to take care of, you know, themselves. They can't even do that.
Right. John, excellent point. Minneapolis, President Obama's on his way to St. Paul on Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday,
Does he not know how cold it gets there? Why would you go there?
He's not going to stay long. But so here are two concepts we've come up with today, right? I mean, one is let's forget about the minimum wage. Start talking about a living wage. So maybe President Obama is shooting too low here.
I interviewed a woman on Friday in Alexandria who was living in Section 8 housing and had a job, but it wasn't enough to cover the cost of child care. So she had to give it up. And she said she wants to work. She said, I can't afford to work because work is so unrewarding that you might as well stay home and take care of the kids yourself than just work all day, blow all your money on child care, and have nothing left over.
Yeah. No, it's insane. It really is. So, I mean, maybe from a strategic point of view, maybe the president would have been better off asking for $15, $16, $17 an hour, and then maybe we'd end up with 14, right?
Well, I
rather
think,
than say let's go to 9 and then say all right, I'll go to 10. You know,
I think there are trade-offs with minimum wage policy, and you know the Congressional Budget Office report that came out last week illustrated that there is the potential that economists will say, you know, that this will result in fewer jobs in the economy. And I think that's a fair debate, even though that CBO report, a lot of liberals have said was an outlier. But the higher up you were to go, the more those trade-offs would come into play. Maybe you don't think so.
All right, well, the Congress is back in town, Arthur. We didn't get to unemployment insurance.
Well, they won't get to it either. That's all I was going to say.
There's a word on that. Thank you so much again for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
See you next week. Arthur Delaney, HuffingtonPost.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Igor Volsky and Dylan Byers. Igor Volsky from Think Progress, Dylan Byers from Politico. In studio, Peter.
So Republicans are still trying to figure out who's going to run for president in 2016. Jeb Bush's name is the latest to sort of be out there. He was talking to CNN earlier this week, and CNN asked him, don't you think that running with the name Bush is going to be a problem? And he said, I get that point, but if that's the case for me, then it's going to be a problem for Hillary too. So he says that if it's going to be Bush Clinton, they're both going to have a problem with their last names.
Well, he's got a point.
Yeah. Although I would point to the favorability of Clinton versus Bush.
I think the Clinton name is worth a hell of a lot more than the Bush name. We're not ready for another Bush and never will be.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
In 1920s America, the Great Depression effectively erased consumer demand. Struggling manufacturers needed new ways to get people buying again. Innovative production processes like stamping and use of molds allowed them to use new materials for their designs. Products using vinyl, chrome, aluminium and plywood began appearing. American industrial designers began introducing streamlined, efficient shapes that shouted progress. Bel Geddes pioneered what we now refer to as utilitarian art. Things that had little reason to look sleek, now all of a sudden did. At the 1939 World Fair featuring Bel Geddes' immensely popular Futurama exhibit, a new era of American industrial design proudly claimed to be building the world of tomorrow. Americans found great positivity in these futuristic forms. Yay. Things were looking up. American industrial designers realised that by making objects look great, people simply wanted them more. From cars to kitchen appliances, the most influential society on earth was spending money again. Mass consumption had arrived. Advertisers finally had lots to talk about. Personal taste could be expressed through the things you bought. Style became equally as important as function. Chair designers like Eames and Saarinen didn't just design seating, they created desirable lifestyles. People behind the product suddenly were stars. Everyone wanted to know who they were. Raymond Loewy was one of the shining lights of American industrial design. His face ended up on every coffee table in the nation. Toothpaste packaging promised whiter teeth. Washing powder packaging promised whiter whites. Who knew such simple household objects would shape the tastes and ambitions of an entire society? American industrial design improved America, functionally, culturally and intellectually, and exported it around the globe.
Hey, what do you say? Hello, everybody. Great to see you today. Tuesday, February 25. This is the Bill Press Show. Here we go for the next, all 3 hours this morning. We will be talking about the issues of the day, telling you what's going on here in our nation's capital. That's where you find us, right here on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building. We'll tell you what's going on here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, and most importantly, on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV, our video stream, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. We will take your calls at 866-55-PRESS or your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Another veteran member of Congress here in Washington has decided to call it quits. And we're talking about Michigan's John Dingell, who is stepping down after serving 59 years in Congress. That is the longest serving member of Congress ever in history. John Dingell says at 87 he is still up to the job, but you can't get anything done in Congress anymore. Congress is broken, so he says it's not worth hanging around for. In other news, the president of Uganda has signed a bill establishing harsh penalties for homosexuality, making it a crime against the state. And there are many critics here in the United States now calling on President Obama to cancel the $400 million in aid that we send to Uganda each year as a form of protest. And the president of the Ukraine, Yanukovych, continues to play hide and seek. Nobody knows where he is, but opponents want him brought to trial and charged with mass murder. And Alec Baldwin has burned all of his bridges. He says he's leaving public life after trashing everybody he ever worked with. Here we go. Lots right here this morning on the Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
For more than 18 months, the members of AFSCME 3299 have been working to secure a new contract with the University of California. With workplace injuries at UC skyrocketing and government fines related to safety deficiencies at UC hospitals skyrocketing, Local 3299's top priority has been safe staffing at the workplace.
We've been short of people for the last 5 years.
They're stretching us thin, which the students are suffering, the faculty suffering, and the patients are suffering.
While UC administrators have granted these standards to other UC workers, they have refused to make similar accommodations for AFSCME represented workers who perform the most physically demanding labor at UC.
It takes a whole team to take care of the patient. It's not just the RN and it's not just the doctor. The nurses were able to win a great contract, and AFSCME workers, the patient care workers and service workers, they're part of the team and they deserve that same fair contract too.
We take pride into working for the university, and we feel like the university doesn't value the work that we do.
But this
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Seth Meyers off to a big start last night on Late Night. I'm telling you, the new star of Late Night. And you're looking at the big star of mornings. Good morning, everybody. Here we go. The Bill Press Show, Tuesday morning, February 25. Great to see you today. It is a polar vortex heading back to Washington, D.C. The East Coast ready to... We're getting ready for another blast of cold weather, maybe even a little bit of snow back here in our nation's capital. Wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours, we're glad to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us and saddling up for our roundup of the big stories of the day from Washington, D.C., where you'll find us on Capitol Hill, from around the country and around the globe. And to help us through the big news of the morning, Igor Volsky from Think Progress here, as he is every Tuesday morning with us. Hello, Igor. Good morning. Congratulations on a spectacular Winter Olympics.
Thank you.
I know you and you.
I told you I'd go. I called it.
You and your countrymen and women, very, very proud. You came in number one in the...
What is it, 23 golds?
In the medal count.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we beat your ass in hockey, but,
I don't care.
It's the big picture.
But
that's right.
The question
it's
is...
the forest.
Yeah. Question is, Igor, was it worth $50 billion?
Yeah. Of course. Of course. That's right. You can't buy pride. There's no price on pride and honor. Can't put a price on that. Priceless.
Yeah.
23 medals.
What
priceless.
happened to you? Have you been brainwashed by Putin?
Well, he hears there's a job open in Ukraine.
That's right. That's right. I'm looking for a promotion.
Hurt you to
That's
butter
right.
him up a little bit,
Yeah. How would you like this? Ukraine correspondent, Bill. Come on, you guys should be on my side.
Yeah. He's on his way to Kiev right after the show, representing us. Representing our team here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
With Alicia Cruz there on the phones and Cyprian Bolding, as always, on the on the video cam. Right. Big question. Yesterday, the man, I got to tell you, it didn't look good either. The Supreme Court hearing oral arguments about whether or not the EPA is exceeding its authority in cracking down on air pollution. And the way the questions went, if you can tell anything from questions, none of the judges seem to be too sympathetic to EPA's position. But the big question about the Supreme Court is, why weren't we able to see those oral arguments?
I know.
Right?
It's about. Actually, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Well,
okay.
Why?
Well, because I feel people play to cameras all the time. I think Congress changed when they allowed the cameras in. Not that I want them out now, but I just feel like there's something about playing and hamming it up and just the human instinct to play for show that could be a little problematic in the Supreme Court.
Do you realize you're on camera right now?
Well, this is why, look at this is why I'm so, trying to make it all smooth.
Here he is.
Otherwise, if we were just talking.
Playing to the camera and accusing other people.
This is why I know, Bill. Right. This is why I know.
Accusing other people right to the camera.
Personal experience.
Jeffrey Toobin, who's the smartest legal analyst that I know, was on CNN yesterday. I thought he had the perfect answer for why the Supreme Court will not let cameras in. Here he is.
Why don't they have cameras there so we can watch these justices go about their business?
Well, if I can answer that question in 2 words. Jon Stewart. They don't want to be made fun of on The Daily Show. They don't want to have their behavior, their questions, their public performance open to public scrutiny. I think it's disgraceful. I think it's terrible. But it's their candy store, and they get to decide who sees it. But it's just totally inappropriate that these sessions are not televised.
I think the other reason is they don't want to sit through all the makeup, all the TV makeup.
That's true.
It's rough.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
When they were debating whether or not to put cameras in the Congress, Ronald Reagan said, "Hey, we have cameras in the banks to catch the criminals, right? What's the difference?" It's basically the same thing. So, someday there will be cameras in the Supreme Court, but they certainly, if it's up to the court though to vote.
It is, yeah.
And those people
I
probably...
mean, I think there's a compromise. Maybe you let the sound out earlier, or there's some kind of negotiation, maybe as a stepping stone. I don't know. I'm open to be swayed on this.
Igor Volsky here for the first half hour. Then we'll be joined by Byers from Politico, talk about media news. In the next hour, Bob Cusack from The Hill here as a friend of Bill the entire hour. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
It was a showdown in Missouri, Bill, over the weekend. A spelling bee that went 60 rounds between 5th grader Sophia Hoffman and 7th grader Kush Sharma. They are both students at the Frontier School of Innovation. They had a spelling bee to determine who would go on to the National Spelling Bee.
My God.
60 rounds. They kept going back and forth, and then they ran out of words. So it was a tie, and both of them will be coming here to Washington.
Aww.
Couldn't they just pick up a dictionary and flip a page?
They went through all of them. They went through all of the approved words.
Wow.
I mean, there's a list of approved words. I mean, it's all words you never use in actual conversation.
Right. Or
so they went
you've
through
never heard of.
the whole quiz.
They should just flip to Spanish. I feel like if that happens,
right.
the bilingual.
That would have gone over well in Missouri.
You don't know the backstory.
What's going on in Missouri?
You don't know the backstory here, which is that Peter is a spelling bee champion.
State spelling bee champion
from South Carolina.
Up until the 7th grade.
Yeah.
You know, I was a spelling bee champ as well.
Were you really?
Yeah, 5th
Yeah, but
grade.
that was in Canada.
No, that was in California.
All those extra you just add a U to everything and you spell it right.
A boot.
Yeah. Favorite with a U and color with a U. It doesn't count as spelling. You misspell everything. I remember I lost. I will never forget the words that I went out on because I missed it twice. I missed 2 different words: Duchess and shellac.
Oh.
I put a T in Duchess and I put a K at the end of shellac.
Oh.
And I'll never misspell those words ever again. The New York Knicks haven't had a great season so far, and their point guard Raymond Felton hasn't had the best shot. So he tried to improve it by carrying a gun, apparently. He was charged with 2nd and 3rd degree criminal possession of a firearm, which are both felonies, and 4th degree possession of a firearm, which is a misdemeanor. Those are all the details we have now. It happened overnight. But
this wasn't on the court.
During the game.
Okay.
Pocket.
Shoot, Raymond, shoot. Okay. No, it wasn't on the court. It wasn't on the court.
Too soon.
Okay.
Too soon.
Right.
And I mentioned last hour that Taco Bell is unrolling or unveiling their breakfast menu items with the waffle
taco. Can't wait to get this show over so I can run over there.
The waffle taco, right? So they even said when they announced this that they are taking direct aim at McDonald's. They want to take some out of McDonald's breakfast menu and some of their sales. Well, McDonald's immediately countered and said, we are thinking about making our breakfast hours later. Breakfast time ends at 10:30 at McDonald's. So you can't get a sausage biscuit or anything like that after 10:30 at McDonald's. But they said they are in the early stages of making those hours later, especially on the weekend. It's the breakfast wars of 2014. The fast food breakfast wars.
Good Lord. Yeah. Where's the First Lady? We need
I was
her,
just
right?
going to ask.
Yeah. Here we go. So, so much to talk about this morning. Igor, where do we? I want to start with where we started last hour. Actually, the big story to me yesterday is the announcement by Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel that we're really going to cut back the Pentagon to reflect the fact that we're ending the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan to the size of the military, the lowest levels in the last 74 years. You have an article on Think Progress this morning. Bring the microphone here with me. Headline, 5 reasons why you should not be scared by the plan to downsize the Army. So conservatives are going to accuse the president, I'm sure, of undercutting the military. What's the truth here?
Well, the truth here is, look, we're no longer in the war footing, and this is what the first budget in 17 years where we don't have to have all of the weapon systems we have, all of the troops we have to meet the challenges and demands of the modern world. And a lot of conservatives, as you point out, are, should we say, disappointed. Dick Cheney, the former vice president, was on Fox News yesterday and said that Obama is more interested in using federal dollars for food stamps than he is on supporting the troops. And you're going to hear that kind of thing day in and day out, because to them...
Does he realize that some of the food stamp money goes to military families because we're not paying them enough?
Unclear. Hannity didn't ask, I don't think. But, to them, though, a military policy, foreign policy in general, is defined by force. It's not diplomacy. It's not negotiation. That's why they kind of poo-poo Hillary Clinton and say, what has she done? What are her accomplishments? She didn't attack a country, so she did nothing in their eyes. And that's why, part of the reason why they're going to be so disappointed. Their whole vision of taking by force and influencing by force is undermined by the idea that you need a smaller presence, a smaller weapon systems that simply no longer serve a function maybe in a post-Cold War world. And of course, the other piece here is that you're going to have a lot of local lawmakers, a lot of Congress people who have weapon systems built in their home district. Those weapon systems are going to go away. Those jobs are going to have to go away, move somewhere else, become different kind of towns with different kinds of economies. And in the short term, certainly, that creates problems for those towns. And so you're going to see a lot of pushback. You heard a lot of pushback yesterday. And I think in many cases, it's going to be bipartisan. So whether or not this actually goes anywhere, this kind of sea change in how the military budget is constructed, I think, is still an open question.
But there's no doubt, it seems to me, given the new realities of, first of all, given advances in technology.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Particularly
the drones.
And these unmanned global hawks or whatever they're called. I mean, you go on and on and on, that we do not have to maintain the same number of either manpower or ships or planes or whatever.
And of course, the argument always is if you downsize your budget in terms of how much you spend on the military, you can take those resources and invest them back home, invest them in infrastructure.
The so-called peace dividend. We've heard a lot about it. That's right. The problem is we've just never seen it. But you're right. This is going to be a battle. And there are even a lot of Democrats and a lot of liberals who will say, yes, we have to cut these weapon systems, but not the one in my backyard, right? Yeah, no, not the one in my state or in my town or whatever.
No.
The other big issue this week that we've been talking about is, I wanted to ask you, and you've been writing about what's happening in Arizona with the legislature passing this so-called Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is really a way of discriminating against gays and lesbians, refusing them service in businesses because your Bible tells you.
Your Bible says you can open a restaurant with a lunch counter that doesn't serve gay people. You don't have to. It's okay. I predict, though, there's so much backlash here, not only from some of the lawmakers who voted for the bill, some Republicans who now regret voting for the bill in the state.
Have they come forward and said that?
They've come forward, at least a couple. But also the business community is really outraged. And they're saying, look, we can't attract the best and the brightest here. You have the tourism officials in Arizona saying people are canceling their vacations because of this bill. And I predict that Jen Brewer, the governor, is going to veto this thing. She has until Friday to do so, and I think she's going to do so earlier to really send a message to say this kind of thing goes too far, it's inappropriate, and it has no place in Arizona. It has no place in America.
Also, guess what? The Super Bowl next year is going to be played in Arizona. And remember a couple of years ago, there was this whole big thing because Arizona wouldn't recognize Martin Luther King Day.
That's right. They're on a real roll over there in Arizona.
That there was a boycott to get the Super Bowl out of Arizona because of that fact.
I mean, I hope you're right about Jan Brewer, but she's not the brightest light bulb in the pack, certainly. And she did sign that anti-immigrant, anti-Latino
but this
legislation.
this bill has it's SB 1062 has really taken a life of its own. You talk to the local lawmakers and they say this issue is bigger than 1070. People know about it more. People like it less. The coalition against it is so diverse and so bipartisan. It's going to be hard for her to withstand that pressure.
Even both senators, Jeff Flake and John McCain, have said she should veto the bill.
And I saw this yesterday. You were there. The White House is not taking a position on this?
No, which is insane. I mean, no, just say just
Where do they say it's a state issue and we don't weigh in on state?
Yeah.
They weigh in on state issues all the time.
Just say what we just said. It has no place.
I can do his job.
Right. Has no place in America. This is
Wow.
This is not a tough decision.
No.
It's also not tough for the United States to do something about what happened in Uganda, but the White House didn't have much to say about that yesterday either. We'll continue with Igor Volsky here from Think Progress, thinkprogress.org, when we come back here on this Tuesday edition of The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, we're going to talk media biz in the next half hour with Dylan Byers from Politico. Igor Volsky here, managing editor of the great Think Progress, thinkprogress.org, in studio with us. Igor, the governors have been in town.
Yeah.
Think Progress, you've been covering a lot that they've been talking about. Story by you here. Rick Perry saying the government should not set a minimum wage.
Things are going so great in Texas. There's so many jobs. The economy is booming. You can really just let the free market and competition figure it out. There's no need for any kind of wage floor. Businesses are so responsible, they can just do it on their own.
They can get people to pay to work for $1 an hour, then more power to them, is Rick Perry's philosophy. Is that it?
Well, yes, and never mind the fact that Texas leads the nation in the number of minimum wage jobs.
God.
Small detail, though.
Yeah.
Small detail.
Rick Perry.
And then we pay, as the government, as taxpayers, for all the social services and safety net services these folks have to use because they don't make enough to get by.
We talked about Arizona. No place in this for that kind of anti-human rights legislation in this country. Uganda yesterday, the president signed a bill saying that homosexuality is a crime against the state and setting forth really, really harsh penalties.
Yeah, life in prison.
Life in prison, right. So what can the United States, if anything, do about this?
This is where it kind of gets a little complicated. The United States provides military assistance, military training to Uganda. Provides about $500 million in foreign aid. Most of this goes to the public health sector, to public health. And so the question becomes, if you cut back on that foreign aid, if you impose maybe sanctions of some sort, it could hurt the people of Uganda more so than the government of Uganda. And so I think that's part of the reason why you have the White House, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, kind of mum on what they can do. Because it's limited options for the most part.
Senator Chris Coons from Delaware, who's on the Foreign Relations Committee, came out with a statement yesterday saying cut off all aid to Uganda. Why shouldn't we?
You got to look at the impact. If you go after public health, if you go after things that kind of help people in that area, I don't know how much good you're going to do.
Yeah, Nigeria passed similar legislation and we did nothing.
Seems to be spreading.
I think it's a time for the president to stand up and pull the plug and send a message to. But there's something more to be debated. Igor Volsky,
this
always good to see you.
is the
Thanks for
Bill
coming
Press
in.
Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
On Tuesday, February 25, 33 minutes after the hour, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill, brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the good men and women of the Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. We all live better because of their good work, and you can find out more about what they're up to at their website, teamster.org. This is the Bill Press Show, and very pleased to welcome a good friend, a great frequent guest of ours here in studio. From Politico on the media beat, Dylan Byers. Hello, Dylan. Good morning. How about it? Everything good?
Everything's good. Still waking up.
I mean, we've been at it for hours already.
I don't know how you guys do it.
But I mean, yesterday, so you had Ronan Farrow kicking off, Seth Meyers kicking off. I mean, you know, this is a
whole new MSNBC lineup.
Pierce Morgan getting fired. I mean, Alec Baldwin taking on the whole world.
Right.
Things are going crazy in the media.
It's really big. If you looked at the front page of Drudge Report yesterday, it was like he was only on the media beat.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just all media. I mean, even this idea that CNN might give a show to Anderson Cooper and Kathy Griffin, which I think is a little far-fetched. But it
they
really
did. They've already given them a show, don't they? Every
New Year's?
Once a year?
yeah, once a year.
Right.
That might be enough. But there's a lot going on in media right now, and that's just television. I mean, we're not even getting into everything that's going on with newspapers and digital and everything else.
No, exactly. We're kind of focused on that. All right. Let's start with Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
I mean, he sees that he's had enough. He wants to say goodbye to public life, and he does so by attacking everybody he ever worked with, it seems, and burning every possible bridge. Why?
My guess, based off of reading that article, is that he had a legitimate. I mean, he was legitimately frustrated with the fact that he felt like he couldn't engage in public life without being criticized for something. Now, obviously, the way he engages in public life, when you throw homophobic slurs at a photographer, is not.
Yeah, right.
That's not the way I engage in public life. You know, I choose to do other things. But I think the sentiment was genuine. I think what he said was not. There is no way that he's actually going to bow out of public life aside from the acting job. I mean, I just don't buy it. I think this article is proof of the fact that he can't avoid the limelight. I mean, he feeds off of that. That's who he is.
Will anybody hire him?
Yeah, I don't think in a weird, you know, his sort of transgressions and crimes and misdemeanors like have far predated the job he had at MSNBC. They even predated the job he had with 30 Rock at NBC. So I don't think he's damaged goods. I think that there is a sort of strange double standard in Hollywood that we're allowed to let this water go under the bridge as long as you keep creating good work that people like. And I do think he has enough fans out there that he will find work elsewhere, probably strictly in films, though.
Yeah. I think there's a difference you can make between his work of fiction, because he's been a jerk for a long time. I mean, it's not news that he's hard to deal with. But, it's easier to swallow when he's playing a character on 30 Rock or in a movie than when we're supposed to take him seriously as a broadcaster.
Right. I mean, Mel Gibson still has acting jobs, doesn't he? Or is he?
I mean, he has done some stuff.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say he's a movie star anymore.
No, that's certainly true. But there is a weird thing about Alec Baldwin, though, that he has been able to sort of skate past this in the past.
That's a good comparison, though, the Mel Gibson thing.
What he has, yeah. But particularly, he seems to have a particular hatred more than a dislike for anybody having to do with MSNBC right now. Right?
Yeah, well, he certainly badmouthed a lot of his...
From Phil Griffin all the way down, right, to Rachel Maddow, calling her a phony. I mean,
well, and the funny thing about that is, as Rachel Maddow said, she's never met him. You know what I mean? I mean, he had a show on Friday nights. It's not like he was like hanging out with the MSNBC crew. I mean, he was very much in a silo there. I think what he felt is, okay, you enter into a deal with somebody, you have a show, you don't just get rid of that person, after, one thing. And certainly, let's be honest, if his show were a big success, if it weren't tanking in the ratings, they wouldn't have let him go after this. They would have, maybe penalized him or something.
But. Yeah, no, you give them a show and you don't let them go unless they really screw up, like Michael Savage or Alec Baldwin.
Right.
I put them in the same camp.
But I mean, but it was really, I mean, nobody watched that show.
No.
And it was bad. It was the opposite of what Alec Baldwin is good at.
I said at the time I thought it was a huge mistake to hire him. I also said at the time it was a huge mistake to hire Piers Morgan.
Yes.
CNN finally recognized it. Took them a long time, didn't it?
It did. It took them 3 years. I think what you had is remember, now the president of CNN is Jeff Zucker. Piers Morgan was hired before Zucker came in. I think Zucker came in and wanted to see if he could make it work, and he found out pretty quickly that he couldn't. I mean, the ratings were just absolutely abysmal, and he decided that he had to let him go. I do wonder, I'm trying to see if there's some sort of thread to tie together between Alec Baldwin and Piers Morgan. There is I think there is something to be said for these sort of like clownish, talking heads who have to come to terms, with very big egos, who have to come to terms with the fact that they just can't make it work on news television.
Well, good take.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're
I'm going to turn that off.
But they are saying that they're going to try to find another. I mean, they always say, we're going to try to find another role for.
Right, which is always There's so much. I mean, you wish people would just be honest about it,
right? Yeah.
Right. In fact, speaking of honesty, I will say that Piers Morgan probably overstated his this notion that it was his idea, that it was both his and CNN's idea that the show should end. I mean, it wasn't. It was CNN's idea.
Yeah.
But that said, I think that when he talked to the New York Times, he was very honest about why the show didn't work, which is that he was polarizing and he, was very passionate about certain issues, and he basically talked down to Americans, and Americans don't want to turn on their televisions every night and hear like a Brit talking down to them. They just don't.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he was one of the loudest voices in support of gun safety and gun control, and which is something that we talk about here a lot, but he was just... he was tough to listen to.
Well, and he
really did talk down.
Yeah, and he also made gun control, some people credit him for sort of making a big deal about the issue, and he deserves some credit for that. At the same time, I would say that he sort of turned it into a clown show. Yes. I mean, he was interviewing conspiracy theorists for ratings. I mean, it was very clear what he was doing. He didn't have an agenda to get gun control on the table. He had an agenda to gin up ratings with conspiracy theorists and gun nuts and things like that.
Jimmy Fallon taking over the late night show, and then Seth Meyers launching last night. I mean, a whole new look, young look at late night television. How do you rate them, and how do you think they're going to do?
I think Jimmy Fallon is the new face of late night. I really do think that, when I was growing up, my understanding was that there was Leno and Letterman. And I do think we're very much entering the time when the faces are Fallon and then, to a lesser extent, Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
And I think that Seth Meyers is a great way to shore up that block on NBC, so that if people are saying, all right, who am I going to watch for late night, and you see the Fallon-Meyers package, like these former Saturday Night Live stars, you're thinking about that in the way you're thinking about watching, say, Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, and you just make that your package. And I think they're savvy. They're attuned to not Gen Y, but certainly a younger demographic. And so I really think that NBC has sort of put its stamp on late night.
Why is it, if you go way back, right, to Jack Parr, Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, David Letterman, why no Tina Fey, now Jimmy Fallon, Kimmel, why no Tina Fey or Amy Poehler?
That's a really great question.
I mean, would they just not play, women not play? Is Michelle Bachmann right? America
is not ready
for a late night female talk?
I mean, that's a wonderful question. You also have to ask if you look at the history of politics and voting and things like that, are we going to have an African-American late night host before we're going to have a female late night host?
Yeah.
That hadn't even crossed my mind. And I think that's Tina Fey. Certainly, if anyone were to be in that position, it would be Tina Fey. That said, if you look at some of the interviews with Lorne Michaels, the founder of SNL, he recognizes that there are a lot of people who can do skits and sort of sitcoms, and most of the SNL stars can do that, and that Jimmy Fallon is sort of very much attuned to stand-up. And to hosting a show, and that's a much rarer breed, and maybe we just haven't seen that. I mean, there's certainly some stand-up female comics who could probably fill that role, but nobody with the sort of national profile that a Jimmy Fallon has.
The media, we are part of it, and we love talking about it, and so do you. And Dylan Byers, that's his beat at Politico. Your comments, your questions on Alec Baldwin or Jimmy Fallon. We're looking for somebody who watched the Ronan Farrow show yesterday. None of us did, and we don't know anything about how that...
I hope one of them calls. I hope one of those two people
One of
calls.
the three people or two people. Maybe that's you. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning If you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, Bob Cusack from The Hill, managing editor, here in studio with us as a friend of Bill for the next hour. Another friend of Bill, Dylan Byers, right here, and we're a friend of his in studio with us from Politico, covering the media waterfront here with Horace Gold and Mackenzie Wenger. You've got a good crew there.
So we got a dedicated crew.
And we were wondering whether there was anybody out there watching Ronan Farrow yesterday. Beverly was from St. David, Illinois. Hello, Beverly.
Hi, Bill. How are you doing?
We're great. We're great. What's going on?
Well, I watched it, and first of all, I'd like to say to your media guy, I like the new format of MSNBC because I do watch it, except I don't watch Joe Scarborough. I can't stand him.
All right.
Okay, now, I watched it yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was very good. He was he had a lot of subjects, young subjects, like about student loans and things like that. Mm-hmm. And he took on Michael Steele yesterday pretty darn good. I think he handled him pretty good. They talked about the Arizona prejudice law over there about the gays and the lesbians, and he had Alex Wagner on. It was a pretty good show. He acted a little nervous at the beginning, but by the middle to the end of the show, he was pretty good.
All right, we got it, Beverly. We already got the fan club started.
I think I will admit that I was a watcher of the show as well.
Oh,
I was the other one.
Yeah.
I think your point is fair, and I think that Ronan Farrow has. I mean, he's 26 now, I believe. 28, 26. 26. He obviously has a sort of stellar resume and CV. There's no question that he will adapt very quickly and learn how to do TV. The point remains that the show is on at 1 o'clock or maybe noon where you are, Beverly, and the problem with that is that there's no audience for cable news television at that hour. I mean, there's really not significant enough of an audience for cable news television at any hour anymore. But really in the middle of the day, you're dealing with a very low rating. So how do you? In a way, you have to ask what is the point of the show at that hour?
Now, I just want you to know that you and Beverly were not the only two. Anita from San Antonio, Texas. Hi, Anita.
Hi, Bill. Yeah, I saw the show yesterday, and I disagree with your previous caller. I was not very impressed, and like your guest, I'm really not sure what audience he's trying to attract.
Well, I think MSNBC has them there because they want people his age to be watching.
Right.
What people his age are watching cable news at 1 o'clock?
Right. I think your point is spot on. And if you look at MSNBC daytime programming, you look at 3 o'clock when they have The Cycle, which is a group of young hosts. Right. You look at that show and you think, okay, are you trying to Who are you trying to cater to? Kids who just got off the school bus? Or are you trying to cater to kids who just drove home from school?
Exactly.
And no, you're not, because nobody watches. None of those kids care about watching cable news. They're not home watching cable news. They're out doing something else. And so, as a business strategy, now look, you look at Fox News, which is appealing to people who are 65, 70, 75. You have to ask, what is your game plan for the future, right? But the game plan for the future is not just throwing on some younger hosts and thinking everything's going to work. It's not.
We've tried it, and it has never worked. Thanks, Anita, for the call. Dylan, your most recent piece that I've seen is about live video.
Yeah.
Which is
another dying beast.
Yeah, but it's not that old, but it's just not working, or hasn't worked. I mean, the Washington Post has tried it. A lot of different people have tried it. Right?
So you and I have talked about this a lot, but we're in obviously the media business that is changing very, very fast, right? Everything is changing extremely fast right now in terms of digital. And so what legacy media organizations like the Post, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal thought is, okay, we've got the internet is killing the newspaper, but look, it gives us this big opportunity to get into video. So what are we going to do with that? Mm-hmm. And instead of looking forward and sort of anticipating the way that the industry was changing, they looked backward and said, oh, we'll do what CNN and MSNBC and Fox News are doing, and we'll create these sort of like live broadcasts, which will be smarter because we're newspaper people, right? We're smarter than those TV people. And what they learned very, very fast, some people faster than others, the Post sort of didn't get the memo until last year, is that it's actually very hard and very expensive to create compelling live programming. If cable news is doing poorly right now, you can imagine, and they're investing all their money into it, you can imagine how much time and money it takes to do it successfully with a newspaper. And so they've learned that it just doesn't work, and now the entire industry is on a course correction, creating more sort of on-demand viewing of like smaller video packages that you can digest in 2 or 3 minutes.
So the idea of getting 4 or 5 reporters around, or 3 or 4 reporters, and just yakking and all that.
There's no real audience for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about the low audience for midday cable television, right?
Right. And I think that there are some organizations like Vice and Vox Media and sort of like new forward-thinking digital organizations that are investing a lot in reporting from the ground and have bureaus, Vice, for instance, has bureaus all over the world. And they're sort of going to figure out how to make it work. But newspapers should focus on doing what they do, which is reporting on their beats, and they can send their reporters to other, television channels and have them talk there.
Right. And they can also put up there, which all of them do right now. You can read the newspaper online right now and read that good reporting online, which is another way.
Stick to what you're good at. Don't quit your day job.
Dylan Byers, great to see you. Thank you,
really
my friend.
Good to see you.
You can follow Dylan and team there at Politico, as always, Politico.com. When we come back, I'll bring you up to date on the President's Day today, so stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the early 20th century, the war to end all wars didn't end war at all. It stoked the fires of change. A traumatized world was ripe for change. The world was ready for modernism. Modernists wanted to forget history, or at least reinterpret it. More than just a style, modernism applied to virtually all forms of creative expression. Innovative artists like Picasso, Escher, Dali, they all started looking at their world differently. Other artists tried painting light itself. These were the Impressionists. Surrealists went a bit further. We had entered the age of the isms. Cubism, symbolism, futurism, constructivism. All these new modern ways of looking at the world blew people away. When it came to architecture, modernists were intrigued by emerging technology. Concrete, glass and steel featured heavily in their buildings. Modernists believed that they could design a better society. Ornamental indulgence was considered a frivolous waste of effort. They thought function should always dictate form, and that mankind's intelligence, creativity and capability for radical thinking should be celebrated. Take the Russian inventor Georgy Krutikov. He suggested an idea for a city held aloft by electrical currents. This at a time when there was barely enough wattage to keep the lights on. Not everything they designed was a resounding success. But you could argue modernism was the single most influential movement of the 20th century. From house music to housewares, tables and chairs to graphic design, all have been created by the aesthetics and ideas of modernism.
So, if you think it's been a good show so far, you ain't seen nothing yet, as Ronald Reagan used to say. But we're going to lose you on Free Speech TV, so bounce over to our video stream at TawkrTV, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, and join us for Bob Cusack, managing editor of The Hill newspaper. Here is a friend to Bill the entire hour. And we'll be joined by Danny Canner from the Democratic Governors Association to talk about the important governors' races across the country this year in 2014. Lots of good reasons, so stay tuned for hour number 3 of The Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, we have a great big third hour coming up here with 2 outstanding guests. Bob Cusack is managing editor of The Hill newspaper. He'll be here for the entire hour as a friend of Bill. We'll be joined by Danny Canner, who is communications director for the Democratic Governors Association. Democratic governors just wrapping up their meeting here in Washington. And we'll find out the lay of the land from him. President Obama's got a very busy day. No governor meetings today, but he's got a very important meeting at 11:30 this morning with the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, a one-on-one in the Oval Office. Then the president will be making remarks on manufacturing innovation institutes in the East Room of the White House this afternoon. And then speaking tonight at the National Organizing Summit over at the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, we will meet with Jay Carney at 12:45 today.
This is the Bill Press Show. Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, we're ending the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq, so why not cut the defense budget? Yesterday, Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel says that's just what we're about to do. Good morning, everybody. Tuesday, February 25. Great to see you this morning. Welcome to hour number 3 of the Bill Press Show this Tuesday morning. Actually, I understand, I've been in the studio for the last few hours, that it's starting to snow a little bit in Washington. Is that right, Peter?
Yeah, little flurries coming in. Yeah,
flurries. Oh, my God, here we are. The polar vortex is back.
Shut everything down, man. We've got flurries. Shut it down.
What's the federal government? How can they open with some snow flurries around? Great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. We are there with you on your local progressive talk radio station, and you can also catch us on our video stream, of course, at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And we are so pleased to welcome as a friend of Bill for this hour, a good friend of ours from The Hill, managing editor of The Hill, Bob Cusack. Hello, Bob. Nice to see you.
Gentlemen, good morning.
How's your acting career going?
Going well. My premiere takes place on Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday.
Yeah, Veep, yep.
I like it.
So,
on Veep, right?
On Veep, yep. But I was wondering, is it going to show on Easter? Are they going to skip Easter? I was informed, yes, they will be showing on Easter.
It'll be on Easter.
So 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
You didn't make House of Cards this season?
Not yet. I'm hoping to parlay it into something like that. A lot of journalists, actually, a couple of journalists have already made it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, in the second season.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Fair amount.
Right.
But I will not be playing journalists. But that's all I can say.
Oh, whoa.
I'd have to kill you.
Scoop. It's a speaking role, right?
It is a speaking role. Right. Yes. There are several scenes. Well, we'll see. Well, actually,
several scenes.
We don't know until you actually see it, of course.
Right.
I will first see it when I see it with everyone else.
All right. Did you have to join SAG?
I was already a member of SAG. I was a
good for
Pampers
you. All
commercial
right.
a long time ago.
Good.
Many years ago.
My union brother here.
That's right.
I'm a member of SAG.
I was
SAG-AFTRA now.
Yeah, SAG-AFTRA now.
I was always a member of both.
I remember telling when I covered the Labor Department, and I was talking to a union source, and I said, hey, well, I'm a SAG member just like you. And you know what she said? She said, so's Reagan. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well.
All right. Bob's here joining the team, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey.
With Alicia Cruz on the phones. Good morning, guys. And Cyprian Balding on the video cam. And last night, poor Jimmy Kimmel. All the attention last night was on Seth Meyers because he started, and there was attention last week on Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Kimmel just keeps trucking along there. But he got a little love last night because it turned out it was his 2000th show.
Oh, wow.
And he noted how significant that was.
I can't believe I've done this 2,000 times. It's like enough already, right? I mean, I think the last time I did something 2,000 times was checking Facebook at my parents' house over Thanksgiving.
Good lie.
He's funny. He's funny. He's one of my favorites. He really is good.
Yeah.
He also has this knack for just crushing everybody. Like that wolf story about the wolf roaming through the halls of the Olympics.
Yeah.
That was a Jimmy Kimmel prank.
Oh,
That was a Jimmy Kimmel prank.
No,
His pranks are great.
His pranks are
phenomenal.
they crush, and everybody fell for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I have people tell me that.
Present company included, by the way.
Yeah. All right. Coming up, so Bob Cusack is here for the entire hour. We'll be joined by Danny Canner from the Democratic Governors Association with a lot of news about what he picked up from the Democratic governors who just left town. And that should be very interesting as well. We'll get right into it with Bob. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. We've all heard the phrase "got milk." Got milk, that famous ad. Well, it is no more. They're getting rid of Got Milk, the milk processor education program. They're the ones that started this Got Milk ad push. It's now going to be Milk Life.
Milk Life?
Milk Life.
What does that mean?
I'm not sure exactly. Got Milk was so simple. Everyone understood what Got Milk meant, but they're putting it aside. It's Milk Life. Their whole point is they're going to put more emphasis on milk's nutritional benefits, including the protein. So that is going to be they've been using Got Milk since 1993.
Wow.
So they're getting rid of it.
Milk Life.
That's not going to sell a lot of T-shirts.
No, they paid a lot of money to somebody for coming up with that, and I don't think it's going to fly.
Got Milk. It's iconic.
I know,
Yeah.
and then you can make fun of it with other things.
Exactly. We talked a couple months ago about how Taco Bell was going to be rolling out a new breakfast menu. Yesterday, they made it official. They have new breakfast items that they're going to be rolling out next month, including the AM Crunch Wrap, which is scrambled eggs, hash browns, cheese, bacon, sausage, or steak in a flour tortilla. Just put all of the breakfast foods into a tortilla, apparently. They have bacon and egg burritos, sausage flatbread melt, and the most infamous is the waffle taco. It is a taco, but instead of a taco shell, they're going to use a waffle, and they're going to stuff it with a sausage patty or bacon, scrambled eggs, cheese, and served with a side of syrup for you to just dump over that whole monstrosity.
Wow.
God help us.
I don't think Michelle Obama is going to be going to Taco Bell anytime soon.
46 grams of fat in that thing.
Oh, wow.
46 grams of fat in a waffle taco.
I saw a photo of it.
It doesn't look good.
It doesn't. It really
Dude,
doesn't.
it's a
And
waffle.
I love the ingredients.
I love waffles.
Yes.
I love bacon. I love eggs. I love maple syrup.
Not together.
But I'm not going to eat them like I'm some sort of an animal and pile them all together into one meal. I keep them separate.
You're an animal.
Yes.
Not that kind of animal.
That is true. Animal House, Meatballs, Ghostbusters, Caddyshack, Stripes, National Lampoon's Vacation, and Groundhog Day all have one thing in common. They came from the mind of Harold Ramis, either from writing, directing, or acting in those movies. He died yesterday at the age of 69 years old. He had a rare autoimmune disease. He's been around for quite some time. He was on Second City, the SCTV, which was a lot of people thought he was on Saturday Night Live. It was Second City TV in the 1970s. He directed Caddyshack. He directed, honestly, maybe the greatest American movie of all time, Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It is such a good movie.
It's one of those movies you see on cable and you just...
I own the movie.
You own it.
I own the movie, and we watch it every Groundhog Day. And the kids, I'm serious, it's so good.
No,
like I said, it's easy to write it off because it's a Bill Murray comedy, but it's funny, it's deep.
I think
sweet,
Airplane is better, but I still like Groundhog Day. All right. Anyway, thank you, Peter. 13 minutes after the hour. So, Bob, a giant, the longest-serving member ever of Congress, announcing yesterday, John Dingell from Michigan, he's throwing it in.
Yeah, amazing. 87 years old, serving 30 terms, and he decided, okay, this is it for him. And just a giant of a House member, Dean of the House, and always fond of saying he never served under any president. He served with presidents. We interviewed him years ago, and we made that mistake. He says, oh, no, I didn't serve under anybody. So a big fan of the House and institutionally, but he's been frustrated with what we've seen over the last several years. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of people thought he was going to run for Henry Waxman's position on the Energy and Commerce as a top Democrat. A couple other Democrats got in the race. We were all waiting for Dingell to try to reclaim that spot, but he had other things in mind.
Right. And he said yesterday, others have announced that they're leaving, but it's just time to do something different. He said yesterday, look, I'm still fit at 87. I'm still up to the job, but Congress is broken. You can't get anything done anymore. I'm paraphrasing. Yeah. And it's basically not worth hanging around for.
Yeah. No, he's very disappointed. He said that, the definition of Congress is coming together. Look it up in the dictionary. And Congress has not been coming together. And he's a deal maker. He's done an enormous amount of legislation over the years. Most recently, obviously, had a big role in the Affordable Care Act.
Universal health care was always
his top issue.
Yeah, right.
So it's going to be weird without a Congress without George Miller, Dingell, and Waxman, but especially Dingell.
And Dingell was into environmental issues like long before its time had come.
Yes,
right? I mean,
that's right.
He was a real pioneer.
Clean Air Act, yes.
In many, many ways. The seat, that particular district, has been held by a Dingell for 81 years. 59 years for him, his father before him.
Yeah.
And does it move to someone of a different name, or might there be another Dingell?
I think it's going to be very difficult to defeat his wife, Debbie Dingell, who was thinking about getting into the Senate race for Michigan. I think this is a better fit for her, and all signs point to her running. And if she does run, she is clearly the favorite. Now, that doesn't mean she's going to win. Some people would say, hey, Dingell, that's been 8 decades. That's long enough. But name recognition is so important in these kind of races.
But she is, without taking anything away from other wives who have succeeded their husbands, she is a force in her own right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And recognized as such. She's a very real major player in this town. She's a former top lobbyist in this town.
Yes.
Had her own job independent of her husband. So independent of anything that John Dingell has ever achieved, Debbie Dingell is a person to be recognized.
She has connection.
With.
She's going to be able to raise money very easily, just on her own, as you said.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that John Dingell, in his speech yesterday, he made the point that Debbie Dingell has helped the district maybe even more than he has. So I think the writing's on the wall. She's going to run. In all likelihood, she'll win.
You have a story in the Hill this morning. By the way, I have my column in the Hill this morning.
Yes.
It's Tuesday. I always have to make the full disclosure here that I have the honor of writing a column on Tuesdays for the Hill. So Bob is sort of my boss here. That's why I'm so nice to him.
Sort of.
It's always fun for me to watch.
But my column this morning, as you can check it out on our website. Have we tweeted out, Peter, yet?
Oh, we haven't yet. We haven't yet.
We will.
We'll put it up.
Come on, get on it here.
You got it. Absolutely, sir.
Bill Press, a Democrats' enemy number one, is the topic of my column this morning, which is that the Democrats have a lot to do in 2014.
Yes.
But one thing that's blocking them from getting so much done in 2014 is so many Democrats are only talking about 2016.
Yeah, that's right.
And I say, hey, how about the House? How about the Senate? How about all these governorships? 2016, we got time to worry about that down the road. But it is true. Look at all these PACs that are out there raising money for Hillary.
Yeah, no, you have these PACs running for Hillary. Obama's clearly nervous about it. He gave a speech where he said midterms aren't sexy enough for Democrats. We need to really focus on the bread and butter of midterms. Of course, the Senate hangs in the balance here. There's no doubt about it.
Very much so.
Hillary's going to raise enough money on her own, but that you have the Koch brothers, the Republicans, they get fired up for midterms. There's no doubt about it. We saw that in 2010. We're seeing it in 2014. And that's where the Democratic Party really has to focus on because, if the Senate goes to the Republicans, and of course that the House is likely to stay in the Republican hands, you talk about a lame duck. This president's going to be a real lame duck. You're going to have double the oversight on this administration.
Really, 2014, so important. Got to focus on that. It's one of my favorite and most frequent rants here on the show. Anyhow, so our listeners and viewers have heard me make that point before. You have another story in the Hill this morning that caught my attention. The headline is "Lobbyist Drafts a Bill to Ban Gays from Playing in the NFL." First, what is a lobbyist doing writing legislation? Well, I guess maybe they do it all the time, and Does this bill have any chance of anybody putting his name or her name on it as a author?
I don't think so, because there certainly are lobbyists who write legislation, and then they give it to the member, and then the member introduces it. But the fact that this lobbyist has come out and said, okay, I'm drafting this bill, I think is a way, number one, to get attention, and number two is that even a lot of the people in Congress who are against gay rights are not interested in doing this type of legislation whatsoever.
But doesn't it run counter to everything conservatives stand for, that you're going to tell business whom they can hire and who they can't hire?
Well,
I mean, basically, this is saying to team owners, you can't hire anybody who's gay.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, we're seeing that, too, a little bit in Arizona. You have this law that Governor Brewer may veto or may not, that has come under staunch criticism from gay rights activists. And we saw Jeff Flake and John McCain yesterday indicating she should veto this bill. And, of course, Democrats in the House say the same thing. So, you know, the mood has changed, but there's also going to be, you know, in politics, there's always going to be some pushback. I don't think this is kind of an effective way to do it, especially when you have a lobbyist drafting a bill.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Michelle Bachmann, but she's leaving. So
yeah,
but not even for her.
I can't see it just because it is. When you deal with the NFL, I mean, that's a private entity. That's dangerous for Republicans to get into telling them how they should run their business.
Yeah. And the Obama administration, through Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel yesterday, announcing massive new cuts to the military budget. First time in a long time. Bob Cusack is with us here from the Hill. We'll talk about that when we come back. Ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show. is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, 25 minutes after the hour with Bob Cusack here from The Hill. It is the Bill Press Show on Tuesday morning. Danny Cantor from the Democratic Governors Association joins us at the half. Peter?
I mentioned at the top of the hour that Harold Ramis is passing. The White House actually put out this statement from the president on the passing of Harold Ramis. He said when he watched his movies, quote, "We didn't just laugh until it hurt. We questioned authority. We identified with the outsider. We rooted for the underdog. And through it all, we never lost our faith in happy endings. Our thoughts and prayers are with Harold's wife, his children and grandchildren, all those who loved him, who quote his work with abandon and hope that he receive total consciousness." So he's got that going for him, which is nice.
Wow.
Wow, yeah. That's an unusual statement on the part of the
Yeah,
president.
and clearly someone, whoever wrote it, was a fan.
Right.
Yeah, that decision's got to be made by the president, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
for someone like Harold Ramis, and obviously, you know, we've all watched his movies and we're all touched by him, but that is an unusual statement.
Yeah, it's great. President Obama has an unusual meeting this morning. He's meeting one-on-one in the Oval Office with John Boehner.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
That's a very good question. I mean, Obama's called for this meeting, and John Boehner has a way of like, okay, Mr. President, I'll come and meet with you. I mean, what could they be talking about? I mean, Obama making the case for UI and minimum wage, and Boehner saying, no, thank you. How about we cut some regulations?
Yeah.
And it's I can't see this meeting going well. The lack of trust between the two men is really it just deteriorated. They have no trust between them. So I think it could be a very short meeting. You know?
Yeah, there you go. Pentagon budget. Big news yesterday out of the Pentagon. I'm surprised it didn't get more play today. But they're talking about massive cuts in the military, scaling way, way back. And does this have any... I mean, people have talked about this for a long time. Yeah. We're ending 2 wars. We should be able to cut our military budget.
Right.
But that means bases have to close, plants have to close that are building certain weapon systems, and those are every one of them contained in some congressional district, right?
Yes, and benefits cut to military personnel. So it's always going to be controversial. Chuck Hagel announcing these cuts. It's kind of interesting because the defense budget it used to be a very strict party line thing, and now you have some in the Tea Party who agree that the budget should be cut. Certainly, liberals like Barney Frank over the years to say the defense budget is far too big, and it's time for some cuts, especially after the explosion in defense funding after 9/11. So this attracted some criticism. I think it's going to be a talker throughout the week. But Hagel says we've got to make cuts based upon the budget as it is now.
Plus, there are technology has advanced to the point, right? I mean, look at drones. As much as we complain about drones and have serious concerns about the policy for the use of drones, they are more cost-effective and require a lot less personnel than boots on the ground. Right?
Yeah, and a lot of this machinery was built for the Cold War, and stopping these programs once you start them is very difficult, and that's what policymakers have grappled with, because there's always somebody pushing for, no, we got to continue making that product.
It's like the turning around the battleship, and we just won't build so many anymore. Danny Cantor joins me and Bob Cusack, and
is the Bill Press Show. on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Tuesday morning, February 25. Thanks for being with us this morning as we take a look at the big stories here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe, on your local progressive talk radio station. Brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their international president, Leo Gerard, the one and only, outspoken, colorful Leo Gerard. The United Steelworkers, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members. Check out their website at usw.org. Bob Cusack here from The Hill, managing editor, as a friend of Bill this entire hour. And the governors came to town, made a lot of noise while they were in town. The Democratic governors, represented and guided through their weekend by Danny Cantor, who's the communications director for the DGA, joining us in studio now this morning. Hey, Danny, nice to see you.
Yeah, Bill, thanks for having me.
I'm amazed you're not taking like 3 days off after.
Yeah, I wish I could be that lucky. We got a busy year.
You do, indeed, a busy year. So it must be when these guys come to town, right? I mean, every one of them is demanding. They want to get things done. It must be sort of
it's a lot of fun. They're here for the NGA meetings, so they're
fun, but also a lot of work.
Yeah,
right?
They're a lot. Well, a lot of them are working with their Republican colleagues to get things done. A lot of shared issues, but a lot of them are up for re-election. So a lot of them are talking to press and meeting with colleagues here. So it's a busy weekend, but I thought it was a productive one.
Now, Bob Cusack does a great job at The Hill, but, you know, he's a little weak when it comes to decision-making, evidenced by the fact that he allows me to write a column for The Hill. See? So,
I was wondering where you're going with that.
So he does slip every once in a while, you know what I mean? And in my column today, I make a point that Democrats are paying too much attention to 2016 and not enough to 2014 in terms of Senate and House and governors.
Amen
races.
to that.
All right. So that's my segue to ask you, what is the landscape? How many governors are up this year? Republicans, Democrats? Just give us an overall.
Sure. There's 36 races this year. 22 seats are currently held by Republicans, 14 by Democrats. In the wave of 2010, a whole host of Republican governors were swept into office in states that really should have Democratic governors, states the president won twice, states that have traditions of having Democratic governors, even if they vote Republican in presidential elections. So the states that President Obama won twice that have competitive races, Florida, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Maine, Wisconsin. We think we have great opportunities in South Carolina and Kansas and Georgia to knock out Republican incumbents. And then we have to defend our guys, and I think we feel really good about that. Pat Quinn in Illinois, I think, is going to face a candidate, likely Bruce Rauner, who's kind of Mitt Romney on steroids, who has not only said the minimum wage shouldn't be hiked, he said it should be cut by $1 to keep Illinois competitive. So I think we feel really good about where the map stands, and relative to the House and Senate, I think we have a chance to really be on offense and pick up some seats here.
Now, Bob, in looking at Congress, right?
Right.
What happens, I think not enough people have made this link. What happens in these governor's races has a huge impact on what happens in the Congress.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with redistricting, and we've seen that where in 2010 in the big wave that helped Republicans in redistricting. One of the questions I wanted to ask, as far as the president's approval rating, it's in the low to mid 40s right now. That obviously has an impact on congressional races, and we've seen that. History has shown that. How much of an impact, if any, does it have on governor's races?
Well, I think we found that these states are really state-specific. They are not obviously the national environment, as 2010 proved, if it's very bad, can be difficult. But I think people look at candidates. They don't view governor's races through an ideological prism. Obamacare, the fight, for instance, will not have the same resonance in governor's races as it will in congressional races. So I think people look at the candidates. People want from their governor someone who's going to kind of make the trains run on time, improve schools, improve roads, create jobs. And it's not these big ideological fights. So I think if the president were to stay where he is now, I think we would be just fine. Mm-hmm. Again, in 2006, Democrats had a good year in governor's races because President Bush was so far in the toilet, and obviously the president had his challenges in 2010. When it's that bad, I think it has a huge impact, but I think where we are now, I think we'll be fine.
How many states, again, that the president carried?
So there are 9
once or
total.
twice,
6 are very competitive. 6 I think we can win. There are 9 total. Iowa, New Mexico, and Nevada at the moment seem like a tougher climb than Florida, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Maine, and Wisconsin, where we have great pickup opportunities. And again, back to 2016, everyone talks about Scott Walker and John Kasich. In the context of 2016, they have a long road to go before they get there. They both have strong challengers. Their approval ratings have not been good. Just this week, John Kasich, a Quinnipiac poll, had him at a 43 reelect number, only leading Ed Fitzgerald by 5 points. The Marquette Law poll has Scott Walker within the margin of error against Mary Burke, who's a great candidate on our side. So there's a lot of work to do before we get to 2016. And frankly, Democrats who are concerned about 2016 should know that we can knock a couple of these guys off before we get there.
Who are the most vulnerable incumbents?
Well, Paul LePage has been an embarrassment to the people of Maine. His policies have rewarded the wealthy at the expense of the middle class. He's cut schools. And obviously, we've seen his quotes. I mean, he does not demonstrate the Maine way. So he's got a real problem.
Just interrupt you there. Michael Michaud, Democratic candidate, was in studio with us just last week. A great candidate, and subsequently, I talked to a couple of friends of mine, big Republican lobbyists in town, who said they are embarrassed by Paul LePage. Yeah. And are probably going to help Michaud. So I mean, I think even the Republicans in Maine say this guy's an
Michaud is battle tested. I mean, Republicans over the years have tried to take him out on the congressional level, and he keeps winning. So he's going to be.
And that is a tough district too for a Democrat.
Great candidate, right? How about Pennsylvania?
Tom Corbett has proven unable to get his numbers out of the mid-20s. And it's because he can't get his major agenda items done. He raised the gas tax. He cut schools by over $1 billion. And he's made a series of ridiculous comments comparing marriage equality to the marriage of a brother and a sister, a marriage of two 12-year-olds. He said when he was signing his mandatory ultrasound law for women, making the most personal of healthcare decisions, that women should just close their eyes and it therefore wouldn't be mandatory. So we have a competitive primary. I think whoever comes out of that primary will have proven to be the strongest candidate because it will be a tough race, and then we'll go on to be the next governor of Pennsylvania.
Bob had asked, I interrupted there, other vulnerables you mentioned started with Paul LePage.
Yeah, LePage, Corbett, Rick Scott in Florida has never been popular. I mean, he came into office, he got less than 50% of the vote. The day he was elected, he had a favorability rating in the mid-30s. This is someone who has brought his governing philosophy from the private sector, which included overseeing a fraud that resulted in the biggest Medicare fraud fine in the history of the country at the time, into government, giving contracts away, giving tax incentives away to his friends at the expense of the middle class. So our candidate is Charlie Crist. I think he's always been a 50-yard line guy. I think he remains that, and he leads in every poll. He has a ton of goodwill from when he was governor. Mm-hmm. He has the name ID that is required in Florida in a big state. He begins with that, and he has the ability to raise the money to go up against Rick Scott's machine, which Scott has promised on the record to use to assassinate the character of whoever he runs against. So I think Democrats there are ready to win. I think Charlie is ready to defend himself against the attacks and put out a proactive message about the next 4 years and why we can do better than Rick Scott. So I feel good there. Probably Michigan, where Rick Snyder, we're already on the air. We have $2 million worth of TV ads on the air already. So it's not, we're putting our money where our mouth is here. Mark Schauer is a great candidate, former congressman. And Rick Snyder, again, he cut corporate taxes by $1.8 billion, paid for it by raising workers' pensions and cutting education. Those are going to be the issues in this race, and Schauer's well-positioned to capitalize on them.
One question is going back to 2016 and 2014 in the battle for it. There's a mood in the Republican Party. You talk to Republicans that, they really want their nominee in 2016 to be a governor or former governor. Are you making that argument in Democratic circles to say, listen, we've got to weaken these guys or take some of these guys out?
So we got asked about this a lot in the context of Chris Christie in 2013, and our job is not to bloody up presidential candidates. Our job is to elect more Democratic governors. That said, particularly in the cases of Walker and Snyder, we can beat them, and we can beat them now. And if Democrats, if we care about the issues we say we care about in presidential years, and we are really focused on 2016, then clearly there's an opportunity here to knock a couple of these top-tier guys out. top tier according to the DC press, of course.
That's an interesting question, Bob, because I was thinking yesterday, among Republican governors who have set their eyes on the White House early.
Yep.
Let's start with Bob McDonnell from Virginia.
Sure.
Followed by Chris Christie of New Jersey, and now Scott Walker of Wisconsin.
Well,
that doesn't seem to be working out too well for
all
them.
All we've heard about since 2009 is that the governors are the party's great reformers, not politics as usual, kind of moderate technocrats who will represent the future of the party. Yeah. That myth is dead. I mean, it is over. One's under indictment on 14 counts of public corruption. One is a federal investigation and his own problems in the state. Scott Walker has, despite him saying the emails are old news, that first John Doe investigation. There's an ongoing criminal investigation regarding the political activity in the recall. So that whole idea that these guys are the future of the party and that the party's great reformers, that's over.
Well, so who are the others that may come up? Nikki Haley or what's her name? Martinez from
Nikki
New
Haley's
Mexico?
unique in that her problem is not that she's ideological, which she is, or that she's rewarded the wealthy at the expense of the middle class and pursued a radical social agenda, which she has. It's that she's proven to be thoroughly incompetent in her job, which is that she's not up to it. They've had a massive data breach of the state's financial information. They had a TB outbreak at public schools that she covered up. She simply seems to be not up to it.
I guess we're forgetting Rick Perry, though. He's the heavy
forgot
in the field.
A few years ago, yeah. What about now the dynamic of this meeting? Okay, it's an election year, and the governors do work together on a range of issues.
Yes.
But but then yesterday you had this kind of remarkable thing at the White House where Bobby Jindal came out, and all of a sudden this what had been mostly a bipartisan kind of meeting deteriorated.
Yeah, well, Bobby Jindal can't help himself. Every time he steps on the national stage, he humiliates himself. He's 10 feet away from the White House, and he launches a partisan attack on the president, says that the Obama economy is the minimum wage economy, the Democrats are waving the white flag of surrender, and good for Dan Malloy. He told him that was the most insane statement that's been made all weekend. And so Bobby Jindal can't help himself. Unfortunately for the RGA and their incumbent governors who are vulnerable, he now seems to be their replacement chair, given Chris Christie can't go out in public or answer any questions or be seen with Republican governors. So again, good for Dan Malloy. If Bobby Jindal believes that people who are working 40 hours a week should live in poverty, then he should say that, and he should deal with the resulting press that comes from it.
Well, when we come back, we'll take a quick break here. Danny Canner, Communications Director for the Democratic Governors Association, Bob Cusack, still with us from the Hill. I want to ask about who the emerging possible Democratic governors are among, let's take the other side of that, among presidential candidates. It does not have to be a United States Senator to be a Democratic candidate for president. We'll be right back on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show. Everyone, we're... on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Governor is just leaving town. Danny Cantor is here from the Democratic Governors Association, Communications Director. Bob Cusack is Managing Editor of The Hill, thehill.com. Check it out today. Check out my column today in The Hill, The Democrats' Worst Enemy. Quoting Pogo, we have met the enemy and he is us. The president made an interesting comment meeting with the governors yesterday, which is, I think, very, very true. While Congress may just get bogged down and not get anything done, governors don't have that option. You know, I worked for 4 years for a governor, great governor, Jerry Brown of California, and you just can't take the day off every day. You've got to meet your budget deadlines and take care of the transportation, the energy needs, the environmental needs, the educational needs of the state, and the governor the president saluted all the governors yesterday. Sure. So we were talking about some of the Republican governors who have their eye on the White House. What Democratic governors, Danny and Bob, join in here, would you put on the list of those who are presidential timber?
Sure. Well, our job is to re-elect Democratic governors in 2014. The people who are mentioned, the people who are generally mentioned,
yeah.
Governor O'Malley, Governor Patrick from Massachusetts,
who said the other day he's interested, actually.
He's open to it.
Right, open
Governor
to it,
Nixon also said a similar thing. People mentioned Governor Hickenlooper of Colorado. But this is kind of where the DGA and the RGA agree, which is that the action is in the states and governors are getting things done. We happen to disagree with the Republican governors and what they're doing, and their agenda actually is incredibly unpopular. But what Democratic governors are doing is working to raise wages, invest in education in order to strengthen the middle class and create jobs. When we talk about what the issues are going to be in 2016, it is hard to tell. But certainly this issue of income inequality and lifting everyone up appears to be the issue right now. And the Democratic governors have a really strong argument to make on that front.
You did not intend to leave Andrew Cuomo off
I intend
the
to
list,
leave no one off the list.
Okay.
Governor.
All right.
But it's
I just want to be sure.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
But obviously, from any political standpoint, there's a coalescing behind Hillary Clinton. I mean, even Steny Hoyer, we did a poll recently, and nearly 60 Democrats in Congress right now would support Hillary Clinton. And Steny Hoyer, obviously O'Malley's home state, is one of those 59. But as far as down the road, I mean, do you think that it's better that a governor is the nominee? I'm not saying for 2016 necessarily, but there's always that debate.
I think that it is helpful to have a concrete record of having gotten things done rather than just pontificating on cable news and on the floor of the Senate. That said, I'm slightly biased, but I do think that there's a whole host of Democratic governors, should Secretary Clinton decide not to run, and who knows what choices people make, to say we've balanced budgets in a fiscally responsible way. We have worked in a bipartisan fashion to create jobs, strengthen the middle class, and invest in education, innovation, energy, science, and actually point to a real record of accomplishment, particularly given that it doesn't look like anything is going to happen in Washington between now and then.
Right.
So it's hard to imagine many of these guys bolstering their resumes again beyond doing foreign trips like Senator Rubio did a few weeks ago and attacking Bill Clinton on cable news.
On minimum wage, the president's pushing for minimum wage, and John Boehner in 1996 said he would rather commit suicide than raise the minimum wage. So it's not going to be happening in the House in all likelihood. Yep. But how does that help the governors, the Democratic governors in particular, in states? Because they can raise, and they have raised the minimum wage. Yep. How much does the federal push help the governors?
Well, I think it helped show the paralysis in Washington, focus people on how important Democratic governors are. Also, you have all of these Republican governors who have taken a similar position. Scott Walker mocked a minimum wage increase as political grandstandings. Rick Scott said that the idea of raising the minimum wage made him, quote, cringe, and that the idea that it would help working families was a, quote, lie. So all of these guys, again, like so many issues, have taken an ideological position that appeals to the right wing of their party and kind of leaves the middle class and people struggling to make it, on their own. So again, Bobby Jindal comes out yesterday and says that this is the minimum wage economy. The majority of Republicans support a hike in the minimum wage, overwhelming number of Democrats and independents. So they're on the wrong side politically. They're also on the wrong side substantively. And this is across the board with Republican governors. We saw Paul LePage this weekend. He said, we're at $765. We're fine. It's like $400 a week for somebody working full time.
36 governor's races up in 2014. We got to pay careful attention to them. Focus on 2014. My message, Danny Cantor. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You got a full plate here, man.
It's going to be fun.
Bob Cusack, always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thanks for coming in. Come back again soon.
Absolutely.
Easter Sunday. Big debut here. And we'll be back with a quick party shot.
This is the Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, very quickly, the good news, I think, of the day is the news that the Obama administration wants to cut the Pentagon budget. You know, Congress has been willing to cut everything from food stamps to Medicare to Head Start. Only defense spending was sacred, but no longer. This new military budget will cut the military to the lowest level in 74 years, but times have changed, and the Pentagon budget must change right along with it. Talking about that a lot more in the days ahead. My party shot for today. Have a great day, folks. Come back and see us again
This is the
tomorrow
Bill
morning.
Press Show.